The 1989 New South Wales Sidecar Championships will be held at the Newcastle Motordrome tomorrow night, and defending champion Phil McCurtain will be looking for back-to-back title wins. McCurtain first won the title way back in 1983. His other victories were in 1986 and last year at Liverpool. His recent form at the Motordrome suggests that he will be hard to beat once more. McCurtain holds the 1 and 3 lap records at the local track. Darren Trelaw is rated as having the best chance of wresting the title away from McCurtain after a very successful tour of England, where he went through the season with an unbeaten record. Country New South Wales is well represented with Brad Frizzle from Broken Hill, Rod Dyer and Max Reid from Wagga, Singleton's Doc Fulp, Curry's Paul Caslick and Daryl Mitchell from Newcastle, all making the cut-off to be eligible for the championship.
On the 22nd of last month, the man walked into this chemist shop on Tudor Street in Hamilton. It was almost 9 p.m. and there were few customers in the store. The man threw a packet of sleeping pills on the counter and asked the sales assistant for 10 more. He refused, saying the man needed a prescription. This time, the customer opened his coat to reveal a sawn-off shotgun. Again, he asked for pills, and again, the sales assistant, Brian Hassett, refused. Did you feel that this person meant what he said?
Yeah, most definitely.
So why didn't you cooperate with him?
I always thought that I would, but it was just on the spur of the moment. I just said no and sort of stuck by it.
To Brian's relief, the gunman left the store, but police believe he may try again. With Brian's help, they've produced this portrait of the man they're looking for. He's described as 165 centimetres tall, of medium build with collar-length straight blonde hair. At the time, he was wearing a fawn jacket, brown trousers and a cream-coloured shirt. If you think you recognise this man, call police on the Crime Stoppers number now. The number is 008 422 199. Police will pay a reward of up to $1,000 for information leading to an arrest. If you don't wish to leave your name, they'll give you a secret ID number which you can quote to collect the reward. The number to call is 008 422 199.
Ray Godsey is a veteran of 9 previous visits to Australia to race the wedge-type cars, and he has thrilled the fans with his very quick and aggressive driving. A winner of over 500 feature races worldwide, Godsey will team with 30-year-old John Gill, who's on his first trip down under. Both drivers are from Indiana and are masters of their trade. Racing at the Newcastle Motordrome won't include the dirt NASCAR late models this year, necessitating Godsey and Gill racing in Sydney, Tasmania, Queensland, Dubbo, Gunnedah and Lismore against some pretty hot competition.
It's not like it was the first year I come over, you could win pretty easy, but now the Australians are caught up and it's tough.
The cars that will whisk Godsey and Gill around the dirt tracks have been prepared at Des Disney's garage at Dudley, and for John Gill, who has won 81 feature races since 1986, he couldn't be happier with the cars.
I wish our cars at home maybe have this type of appearance. The body styles and all look the same, but of course we've come over here as a USA team to say, and they got the red, white and blue colours, and I think that's pretty.
For the veteran Ray Godsey, it's a love affair with a wedge-shaped NASCAR vehicle that prevents his switching to super sedans.
Some of the guys wanting to go to right-hand drives, maybe they're getting more races, I don't really know. I kind of like these wedge cars myself, to call them NASCAR late models. That's what we run at home, you know, and so I like to sitting on the left side of the car a lot better. It's a lot safer, I think.
We were originally going to have it made into a larger map, but when I talked to the printers initially, they couldn't have the right ones done in time, so they did us just in port. Yes, it was in the port.
No, you can come back. Get him to come back in fast.
Give it the gun. Give it full blast.
The Port Stephens flotilla of the Australian Volunteer Coast Guard has invested thousands of dollars to design and print the maps. The coastline between Catherine Hill Bay and just north of Broughton Island and the enclosed waters of Port Stephens and Mile Lakes has been split into 4 separate areas, each with its own map. The map sets out channel markers, landmarks and danger areas that even a novice could locate in any weather conditions to pinpoint their position on the grid. Coast Guard Commander Gerd Brewer says the maps also contain plenty of other information.
There's a lot of information regarding rescue breathing and the main thing on how to use a radio. It's amazing how many people, when they get onto a mic, they absolutely freeze. And we've put it onto the bottom of each chart, how to use that radio, what to do in the case of an emergency. So they shouldn't have any trouble getting in touch with us on the radio.
The maps are printed on the same plastic used for the $10 note, so they do not fade, tear, are completely waterproof and are used by all emergency services. Commander Brewer says the maps have already been put to good use.
Used it for a rescue for the first time last night. The boat didn't have it set on, but the radio operators did, and they directed our rescue boat directly to the boat, and we had no trouble finding it using the charts.
The maps are available from local marinas or the Coast Guard for $3 each or $10 the set. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
Around-the-clock work saw the Brisbane leave dry dock 5 days ahead of schedule. Her place was quickly taken by the Tobruk. Built by Carrington Slipways in 1979, the amphibious heavy lift vessel is here for emergency repairs to a small crack near the rudder. In the next 10 days, she'll also undergo a much-needed hull scrape, work that will allow the Tobruk to return to maximum speed.
Well, Tobruk is an amphibious heavy lift ship, so primarily this is a vehicle that can carry up to about 450 soldiers. It can carry at the same time 20 tanks, numerous other army vehicles. We can operate the full range of helicopters in the Australian Defence Force from this vessel for ship-to-shore movement, but primarily we are a support ship.
With Sydney's Garden Island fully committed, Newcastle's dry docking facilities are in great demand. The Tobruk secured a docking date only after a last-minute cancellation. Time was of the essence, since the Tobruk is said to be deployed to the Mediterranean next year to support a pilgrimage to Gallipoli. Prime Minister Bob Hawke will join the Tobruk and a contingent of Australian veterans to mark the 75th anniversary of the Gallipoli landing. The Tobruk may then return to Newcastle for a major and lucrative refit later in the year.
Since 1987, Ashland Chemicals has been trying to relocate their plant from Sydney to the Berkeley Vale Industrial Estate near Wyong. The proposal soon met with disagreement from residents who feared a chemical mishap like the major accident in Sydney only 2 weeks ago. Residents soon persuaded Wyong Council to knock back the project, and the company then took the matter to the Land and Environment Court. Justice Cripps in the Land and Environment Court came down on the side of the residents, saying that the proposal represented a hazardous and offensive industry and as such should not be allowed. Immediately following the decision, production manager for Ashlands, Thomas Carroll, said his company was disappointed and would not consider another site on the Central Coast. He then went on to comment that his company would steer well clear of the area in the future. However, since then, Ashlands has taken the case a step further, this time to the Supreme Court. In a last-ditch effort to head off the application, Wyong Council today announced that it had bought the land cited by the company for the plant. The application now looks destined for a long legal battle over whether the appeal can go ahead because the company does not own the proposed site.
In the past, Newcastle Police have done their bit to increase public awareness about the enormity of the problem of missing people with displays, talks and media campaigns. Now they've joined in a statewide initiative, Operation Phone Home, which was launched in Sydney today by the Missing Persons Unit. The campaign, which will run until December 22, coaxes missing people to make contact with their friends and families through a special toll-free number. The missing person has the choice of remaining anonymous. Each year in New South Wales, thousands of people simply disappear. In the Hunter, many names remain on the police missing persons files. Incentive, according to Inspector Ian Cleary, for Newcastle Police to ensure Operation Phone Home gets plenty of support.
This is an area of concern for the Newcastle Police, and we are going to be very actively engaged in this Get Your Message Home scheme that's going on now.
Now, what are you asking people to do?
If anybody wants to ring home, they go onto the toll-free number 008 424 730.
Is there a local number as well?
Newcastle Police Station, which is 290 999.
Tourist officer for Cessnock, Philip Brown, says there's been a need for several years for a united hunter group to promote the area as a whole. The closure of the Hunter Manning Authority a month ago opened the door for tourist officers from Port Stephens and Newcastle to Scone and Taree to get together to combine their skills.
Well, the new committee, the secret of success will lie in its sensibly simple format. So it'll have a very small and efficient management structure. There won't be the wages of any full-time employee. The committee itself will be made up of full-time tourist officers from around the Hunter region, and it won't have any overheads other than just a small budget for stationery.
Already underway is the production of a tourist accommodation guide in conjunction with the Tourism Commission of New South Wales to be distributed throughout Australia. Next will be hunter promotion through the holiday and travel shows in Sydney and Melbourne.
One of the major points of our committee's tasks, I think, will be working in conjunction with travel agents and travel writers from the media on encouraging them to come up to the Hunter region to experience its diversity and with assistance from the new committee, go back and promote the Hunter in an effective and an efficient way.
Paul Baker is a mean hand with a trowel. On 2 occasions he's stamped himself one of the fastest brickies in the world. In his first crack at a world record back in 1980, Paul laid 1,140 bricks in the 60 minutes. The present world record is 744. But unfortunately for Paul, the Guinness people refused to recognise the feat because he used 4 labourers. He should have used just 1. So it was Pastor Bill Taylor who had the job of keeping up with Paul today as he raced his way through the double brick interior wall in a Narara home. Bill's target was 1,000 bricks for the hour. That's the target most bricklayers set themselves for a whole day's work.
Well, you never see a wall go up that fast because a bricklayer will lay about 1,000 bricks in a day, and that's good going.
Making Paul's achievement even more remarkable was the fact that his bricks at 4 kilograms were twice as heavy as those used by the world record holder. And that may well have been the difference when it came to the wire. The final countdown revealed Paul to have laid 653, 92 short of the record.
I was terribly disappointed because I was sure we were going to get that much done. We had all the cement mix, so we'll have to keep on laying bricks to use the cement up. Yeah.
Do you think you'll have another crack at it?
Well, if we get the opportunity to, and if it's going to help someone.
Nevertheless, there was still a winner from the day. 2 local organisations, the Central Coast Christmas Appeal and the Greenpoint Community Emergency Housing Project, were both the recipients of funds raised by Paul's venture. In previous years, Russia, China and Japan have been the primary buyers of Australia's medium to strong wool. But because of internal trouble in China and a downturn in both the Japanese and Soviet economies, Australia's wool sales have suffered. To save local growers from collapse, the Australian Wool Corporation has stepped in to buy nearly half their output. Already they've purchased 1.6 million bales of wool, which will be stockpiled and sold over the next 3 years. At this week's sale in Newcastle, the corporation's presence is expected to be noticeable.
We envisage this week that probably they will buy from 40% of the clip upwards.
It's not all bad news for growers on the export scene. Bidding for the finer grain of wool at this week's sale is expected to be competitive, with the best bales of wool fetching prices equal to previous years.
In fact, a seasonal record was set today with a bale of wool from Armidale fetching 9,000 cents a kilogram, almost 4,000 cents higher than any other. The wool clip was sold to a Japanese spinning mill, which creates high-fashion knitwear and undergarments. Although it's only early in the week, according to Michael Hogg of the Woolbrokers Association, the market for superfine wool appears solid.
This is a superfine wool sale, and I'm sure that the growers will be delighted with the returns that they get for their finer superfine wools this week.
The project will enhance the Civil Aviation Authority's satellite communication system, a vital link between air traffic controllers and aeroplanes in Australian airspace. At the Canberra signing, the CAA's Chief Executive Colin Freeland said Australia needed to plan for more crowded skies.
We're certainly looking towards something like a doubling of aviation activity over the next 10 or 15 years.
Guninan's Chris Huggins said the first of 8 7-metre antennas will be started in the new year. Guninan's will build, supply and install the masts by October. Mr Huggins said it was important that this work be undertaken by Australian companies.
Newcastle halfback Stevie Former set up by a lovely dummy by Michael Hagan. Stevie Former's he got the pace for the line, he's close, he's over! Carter at dummy half to Goulding. Goulding now has a hard run at the line, gets the ball away to Former. Former throws the dummy, gets it inside, Scott Carter will score over the post and does so! The Knights are in.
The contract was announced in August but wasn't actually signed until last month, and it's still a long way from completion. The task of building the 10 or 12 frigates is so large it'll be 5 years before all the subcontracts are awarded and late 1992 before the first metal is cut. The RAN will take delivery of its first Mako 200 in 1995. Today, chief executives of the winning consortium made the first of many briefing trips to the region. Before the contract was signed, Amicon stated the Hunter would receive 12% of the work if it won, amounting to $700 million and at least 1,200 jobs. Those figures were repeated by both the Prime Minister and Defence Minister, illustrating that Newcastle hadn't really lost. But with the contract safely in the bag, it could be that guarantee was too strong a word.
We have every expectation that that will come to fruition based on our knowledge of the regions, and but only the tendering process will lead to its fruition and its final decision. Now, we can't guarantee that the work will come here because the companies may decide not to tender.
As for Federal Labor Minister Peter Morris, he says any talk of guarantees is simply unwelcome.
The propagation of that kind of message is what helps to try to put down what industry is achieving in this region. I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever about the ability of industry in this region to perform.
During the year, Amicon was open about its plans to probably undertake shipbuilding work on the old State dockyard site. Today, however, the issue was definitely off limits.
We have no connection with the State dockyard. Whether we will in the future or not is somebody's guess, but if you want to know what's going to happen to the State dockyard, you go and talk to the State government.
The question of work spread has been highlighted by the recent release of submarine project figures. According to the Premier's Department, New South Wales was promised 40% of that contract. With only 8% left to be distributed, it's seen just 24%.
But there was no way in the submarine project were there any pledges, assurances, guarantees, undertakings of any kind whatsoever ever made.
After averaging 195 kilometres a day through temperatures of up to 40 degrees and strong headwinds, the cyclists were more than happy to finish the trip. Even happier was the Australian Cancer Society, who received a cheque of $60,000 for research into cancer. While the team was pedalling, a backup crew of 13 canvassed people along the track for donations. What about the generosity of the people along the way?
The truck drivers and the people in the cars were fantastic. They really were beeping at us all the time, waving. Even some of them were handing money out through the windows through us.
It was a magnificent effort by the team. Just 2 years ago, RAF cyclists raised $53,000 for the Cancer Foundation.
The gruelling event shaped as a classic showdown between Queenslander Hayley Lewis, who was the fastest qualifier, and Donna Proctor, who has swum the 5th quickest 400 IM in the world this year. Jodie Clatworthy was going to keep them honest. Proctor got away to a great start in the butterfly leg and turned leading the bunch. Lewis was expected to peg her back in the backstroke section, but a pre-race plan by Proctor to go out quickly in the first 50 of the backstroke paid off. But there was only a touch in it as they turned for the breaststroke laps, where the 400 is often won and lost. And for the Newcastle Flyer, it proved to be the winner.
They've got 25 metres, a little bit less than that to go of breaststroke, and Proctor, a very strong stroke for her, is coming away from Lewis to the tune of about a metre now.
Lewis is a renowned freestyler, and the gap that Proctor had on her didn't seem enough. But with a wealth of international experience and fierce determination to be in Auckland, Proctor put everything into the final 50 metres.
It's Proctor by a half body length. She's going to last. She's going to hold Lewis out. The first 3 legs has taken a bit out of Lewis, it seems. Proctor's in front. Lewis making one belated lunge at her. She's getting very close to her. Proctor hanging on. Proctor, yes. Proctor in 4:48.82.
Once again, a classic finish.
There were 10 entries for the women's title, and after the 5 maximum degree of limit dives, there was nothing in it. Vanessa Baker led by 13 points and was being hard-pressed by Bindi Mansfield of Sydney and Jane Horsley of Newcastle, who were both diving well. Baker's 6th dive was a beauty and received 6s and 7s from the judges. But coming through the group was the veteran of the field, 44-year-old Aniela Claveston, and with a big scoring dive, she moved into outright 3rd behind Bindi Mansfield. With 1 dive left and now in 3rd position, Mansfield tried for perfection and impressed most of the judges to score well, finishing with 333.80 points. Claveston wasn't going to be outdone and hung on to record a brilliant 2nd position with 338.20 points. But it was Vanessa Baker from Sydney that proved the best to take out the New South Wales 1 metre springboard title for 1989 with 378.55 points, 40 points ahead of her nearest rival. Tim Hunter is in a stable condition in Newcastle Hospital today after a terrifying accident at the Newcastle Motordrome last night. Racing in the limited solo final, Paul Slade lost control of his machine in front of a charging pack. Dave Edwards avoided the fallen rider, but Hunter had nowhere to go and crashed headlong into the wall. He was taken to hospital in an unconscious state, but is on the road to recovery today.
Surfers at Nobby's Beach anticipated some unexpected action when the Westpac chopper hovered overhead. At first, many thought it was the real thing, but word soon spread that a training exercise was underway. With that established, serious sunbaggers returned to the real business of the day. Meantime, crew members performed both winching and static line operations, the two techniques most often used in sea rescues. This year, the Westpac chopper has carried out 10 such rescues. Today's operation will equip crew members to continue the work so vital to sea safety. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.